Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Dhamma of Peace series, number 31. Perfecting the 5 controlling mental faculties, Part 4. Part 4 is the last of this series, or mini-series. In this talk, one of the tools that we need to use to perfect the 5 controlling mental faculty is to practice mindfulness insight meditation without regret and or without concern for one's life and limb. As long as we don't have this attitude, it is impossible to achieve liberation. When we say one must not have any regard for life or limb, don't get scared away. Those kinds of attitudes are only obvious in the person or yogis or bhikkhu who are practicing seriously to attain liberation in this very life. So one is totally determined to get it. In this life, one has a great desire to attain, to have attainment in this life. Those people bear that kind of attitude. For average yogi, this kind of attitude is not possible, or even some criticize that. Do you have to meditate? Even if you feel like you're having a stroke or your heart pumping, that is senseless, useless, mad. That kind of criticism came from some yogis. From their point of view, they are right. But for people who want to escape from samsara in this very life, losing a limb or losing a life is nothing. To have such kind of attitude, okay, even though you don't have it, you must try and put that kind of attitude. One should reflect that we are born as a human being with reasonably good health and right view, I should say the right view, when Buddha Dhamma is flourishing. So know that it is extremely lucky that we are born as a human being and we have a very healthy, well life. And at the same time, as we are practicing, we have the theoretical, the right view. what the right view means. It is not a self or a soul, I, you, or me, but it is simply a physical and mental phenomenon we mistakenly perceived as self or soul. Theoretically, one must understand that. That means having a right view, not owning the right view, having the right view. And right now, Buddha Sasana, Buddha's teaching is flourishing. Maybe another 2,400 years will go on. And then it will disappear like anything else, anicca, impermanence. So, if we don't practice now, we will regret later of missing this opportunity, because only at the time of Buddha's sasana one have access to this. Beyond that, it's no more. And at that time, one will regret it. I should have done it, but I didn't do it. And so on. We have lived countless lives in the past and are still in the endless rounds of rebirth, old age, sickness, and death. This rebirth, old age, sickness, and death will go on endlessly if we simply don't practice this mindfulness insight meditation. To escape from samsara, one must practice without regard for life or limb. That's the only way to escape. And we all know, many of you have been to the retreats. We practice, I think there's a very little possibility of losing your life or a limb. But regardless, that kind of attitude, one needs it when one is practicing. Otherwise, you have a little bit of pain under the right rib, and suddenly, oh, my heart, and so on and so on. All these little information we have about health. If the symptom comes up, suddenly worries and concern and anxiety come in, and then the mind is not in the observation anymore. Or even you might say, I should better leave and go to the hospital and check it out. That becomes the priority. But we are all average humans. You can't blame anybody. That is the choice they have taken. Okay, and here I'll pick up a story from a scripture. This is in Sri Lanka. It's long after the Buddhist period. In Sri Lanka, the monks at that time lived in a monastery, and during the rain retreat, some of the monks went to the forest and practiced meditation for 3 months. That's a tradition. Even nowadays, it is the same thing can be found in many Theravada Buddhist countries. So in the monastery there lives a few monks, and particularly there are 2 monks. One is the senior monk, let's call it abbot, and the other one was a junior monk. So In a Buddhist monk's order, the senior monks just always have a higher ranking or pay respect by the younger one learns from the older one. That is the system. And both monks, they already have attained jhanic power. In other words, they can go into absorption, jhanic power. And when Vasa comes, these two monks left the monastery and went to a nearby forest and practiced meditation. Okay? Dwelling, within a certain distance so that one cannot hear or talk or relate quite easily. And a village close enough for arms round. They are practicing. Maybe they might meet once a month on a full moon day to converse. It's up to you. You don't have to. You can do so. And if you do so, it is pre-arranged ahead of the time. So they were practicing in the forest, and particularly that year, the rain is really heavy, windy and cold. But they keep on practicing. The younger one practice because he has the instruction from his senior. You must practice with no regard for your life or limb. So he just practiced without having any care for any environmental condition whatsoever or anybody. And that younger monk attained Benga Jnana, which means insight of the solution. That's where it comes up. And I just pull it up and say Benga Jnana because this has a direct bearing on what we are talking about. Practice with no regard for life or limb. Because once you attain or achieve the insight of the solution, one sees everything, whether it is mental phenomenon or physical phenomenon or physical objects or mental objects. They simply disappear. Everything disappear, dissolve. You don't even see the becoming. In other words, the mind that knows the disappearance of the object is also disappearing. The mind that knows being the consciousness that knows is. So one consciousness one after the other disappearing. Whenever a consciousness disappears, that means it is the death of that consciousness. In other words, one is instantly dying. And one truly understands there's no moment, no place in this universe when the death is not taking place. And suddenly, one do not worry about death anymore. When one is not worried about death anymore, that attitude, practicing with no regard for life or limb, it's complete. Before it was an attitude, now it is a direct experience, and you know it, and that's just a nature. So Only when a yogi attains Penkanyana, that too, practicing without any regard for life or limb, becomes complete, and it becomes one's possessed attitude. That's why. But in other words, let's carry on with the story. The younger monks attained liberation during that rain retreat. And at the same time, the senior was also practicing. They both have jhanic power, and he practiced as well as with regard for no life or limb. Okay? He doesn't care I die or I lose my hand or feet or whatever, paralyzed. But there's one thing, because he is a senior monk and he was quite fond of his junior monk. He's concerned about him. What was it is raining heavily, it is cold, the weathers are cold. I wonder whether he's okay or whether he has a cold or whether he has a pneumonia and so on and so forth. That kind of thoughts come in. Of course, one can interpret that. It is caring, it is compassion. It's a good thing. Yes, it's a good thing under a certain circumstances to have compassion, but when you are practicing meditation, it becomes a great obstacle. Even though you believe you don't care for your life or limb, but you are caring for somebody else in your mind. And because of that little thought and obstacle, the monk didn't attain, the senior monk didn't attain any special Dhamma or achievement or liberation. So they put to the extreme of life or limb that covers anything and everything in the universe. No excuses, no exception. So that's an example given in the scripture, happened in Sri Lanka, maybe about 400, 500 years after the Buddha passed away. So that's one tool. And another tool is, and the last one of course, to practice without surrendering or not giving up until one attains or reaches the path of fruition and nibbana. In other words, you would not get out of this retreat till you attain the path of wisdom. Once you have the path of wisdom, fruition comes automatically and nibbana becomes the object of meditation, or one realized it automatically. So let's say reaches the path, wisdom. So when we say path wisdom, these are the wisdom that Ariya, noble person, has. And there are 4 types of noble person. Stream winner, once returner, non-returner, and arhat. 4 types of Ariya. And when a yogi practice must set a goal to reach in this life. I will practice till I reach this particular goal in this very life, not next life. That is the goal setting. If one can, of course. If you can't, if you have to go home after 2 weeks, then there's no point setting that attitude or goal. At the times of Buddha, everybody's aimed to become an arahant. And mostly they did. But today, we should strive to become at least a stream winner, the first and the lowest level of Ariya or noble person, stream winner. But if the yogi doubts whether he or she can realize Nibbana, the end of all suffering, or by using, I don't have enough parami to attain this. Because of that, if I'm doing this, it's just a waste of time. A waste of time doing this for something I cannot attain. Yeah, definitely it will be a waste of time. A waste of time where one applies the enduring pain and fatigue. You put in a lot of effort, but they are all wasted. Once you leave the center, you all go back to zero. We all know it. For about a week or two after the retreat, still go there. And then suddenly you become like everyday Joe. And in here too, if one truly want to get out of samsara, you put that kind of determination. I will not stop this meditation till I attain or become a stream winner, and strive with no regard for life or limb. Then there's a sure winning formula. In here, for a little bit of information, I put in a case history at the time of Buddha. In fact, it is once Buddha gives a Dhamma talk on the 4 rare dharmas. The Buddha said there are 4 rare dharmas. And he delivered to the Naga king. Naga is in the West loosely translated as dragon, the king of the dragons. At the bank of the Ganges River, while he was traveling to Benares. And to put it briefly, or summarize it or enumerate it, he said, it is a scarcity to be born as a human being. In other words, it's extremely unlikely to be born as a human being. And even if you become a human being, it's not easy to have a long and healthy life. That's it. Number 2. And number 3 is, it is rare, extremely rare, to have listened to the Satipatthana Vipassana Sutta, which means instruction of how to practice Satipatthana Vipassana, which leads to realizing Nibbana. And once you realize Nibbana for the first time, it closes the door to the 4 woeful states. 4 woeful states are places where suffering are supreme. The hell realm, animals realm, hungry ghost realms, and demonic realms. In other words, you will never be reborn in those four realms. That means you will never suffer the suffering that exists in those realms. If once become the first stream winner, or the first noble person, the stream winner. One practice without surrendering, that's a key word, without surrendering, can help one realize Nibbana in this life. Don't think about whether you have parami or you don't have parami. Those are irrelevant. The only relevant thing is your desire to become a stream winner, the great desire. And also your determination that, so to speak, I won't get out of this retreat till I attained it. Those two, once you have those two, automatically the effort comes in and everything flows. Chanda, noble desire, and determination, aditana. Those two mental factors are the keys. And having a complete Dhamma on contemplation and practice without surrendering until one realizes Nibbana is vital. Because there are cases shown in the scripture at the time of Buddha. Some monks deliver a sutta or sermon without concluding how to practice Satipatthana Vipassana. They are halfway or 1/4 of the way. That means you didn't have a complete instruction or complete Dhamma to help realize Nibbana. And if it's so, you won't be able to. And also, even if you have heard everything and you know everything, if you don't practice, if you don't put enough effort to attain, to become a stream winner, you won't get it. So those two things are vital. Must have the complete instruction and must practice according to the instruction without surrendering. And put back the second last one with the attitude of no regard for life or limb. The nature of Buddha Dhamma is profound, complex, and subtle. Mindfulness insight, Satipatthana Vipassana, is available only when Buddha arises in this world and lasts very briefly after he passed away. This time is 5,000 years. Buddha said so. We have used up already 2,600 almost. After that, there will be eons and eons of worlds will come and go without Buddha Dhamma, without Sasana, Buddha's teaching, without Satipatthana Vipassana to practice. The teaching is complete because we have heard from many of our great teachers, we have read great books, we have gone to some retreat also, so you can say the teachings of how to practice is complete. Now it is our responsibility to practice to the fullest extent to attain the path wisdom. May all of you be able to practice Satipatthana Vipassana meditation with a great desire to attain path wisdom and practice without surrender till one's become a first stream winner as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.